The string quartet hadn't even finished tuning when she did it. 14 seconds. That's all it took. I counted. The lights dimmed, a hush fell over the ballroom, and I was still sipping from my half-warm glass of house white when Dahlia stepped onto the dance floor. Not with me. Not even with a pause. Not with a glance. With him. Ronan. Her boss. He held out his hand like some ridiculous prince at a royal wedding, and she took it without hesitation. Like it was rehearsed. Like she was waiting for the cue. The moment their hands touched, my stomach folded in on itself, and my throat, God, my throat, felt like it had a screw twisting into it. Someone clapped behind me. I think I did too, just so I wouldn't look like I was breaking. It wasn't the dance that hurt. It wasn't even the way he pulled her close, like they'd done this before. It was how she smiled at him, like I didn't exist. Like the man she came with, the man who ironed her dress while she got ready, who picked lint off her coat in the car, who stood beside her in every dull corporate dinner for the last 6 years, wasn't standing right there, blinking, invisible. I wanted to laugh, or scream, or disappear. Instead, I walked to the edge of the floor, where I'd be sure she'd see me. And when Petra, her colleague, the one with the sarcastic smirk and chipped nail polish, brushed past me, I didn't think. I tapped her shoulder. Dance with me. She tilted her head. Since when do you ask people things like that? I don't. I replied, my voice thinner than I wanted. But I don't feel like being pathetic tonight. She looked me over, one brow raised. And then, miraculously, she held out her hand. Fine. But if you step on my foot, I'm leaving you out there. Fair. We danced. And about halfway through the second turn, Petra leaned in and whispered, You do know she's watching us, right? I didn't answer. I couldn't. I was too busy staring straight past Petra's shoulder at my wife. Dahlia. Frozen. Jaw tense. That fake social smile breaking at the corners like a poorly glazed plate. Her boss tried to say something to her. She didn't respond. And for the first time in years, I saw her uncomfortable. Good. Let her squirm. Let her feel it. Because something just shifted, and I wasn't going to be the soft one anymore. She held it together for exactly one more song. Dahlia has this thing she does when she's furious but can't show it. Her lips tighten ever so slightly, and her eyes glaze over like she's focusing on some invisible point across the room. I'd seen that expression once before, when her pitch presentation went sideways in front of the Singapore team. She didn't blink for 7 straight minutes, and then she went to the bathroom and cried silently behind the sink for 20 seconds, wiped her eyes, and came out smiling. Tonight, she used the same trick. Only this time, she couldn't stop glancing in my direction. Petra noticed, too. She chuckled under her breath and said, So, am I your revenge dance? Or just the poor woman caught in the crossfire? I didn't plan any of this, I muttered, and I didn't. I didn't even know what I was doing anymore. All I knew was that Petra's hand on my arm felt grounding, and being with her was the first time all night I hadn't felt like wallpaper. The music slowed. I thanked her, awkwardly, too formally, and turned to leave the floor, but Petra stopped me with one hand. She's coming this way, she said. I looked over my shoulder. Dahlia was already halfway across the ballroom, heels clicking like gunshots on marble, Ronan trailing behind her with a confused smile and a drink in each hand. Wesley, she said tightly when she reached me. Can I talk to you? Alone. Not hey. Not, you look like you were having fun. Just that clipped tone, sharp as a paper cut. I nodded. Petra gave me a low whistle and wandered off, grinning to herself like she'd just watched an episode of reality TV unfold live. Dahlia pulled me toward a side corridor near the coat room. It smelled like gardenias and old wood polish. What was that? She hissed. I blinked. A dance. With Petra? She was standing there. You weren't. Her eyes narrowed. That's immature. You were trying to make a scene. You're the one who danced with your boss the second the music started. She scoffed. It was just a dance. Right? And mine was a war crime. She crossed her arms. You're being dramatic. You always do this. Twist everything into some story where you're the victim. I wanted to say something clever, something that would make her pause, but all I had were feelings I couldn't sort out fast enough. So instead I said the quiet thing, the one that had been simmering in my chest for months. You don't look at me like you used to. That stunned her for a second. Her face dropped, and for a brief flicker, I saw something real. Maybe regret. Maybe guilt. Maybe nothing at all. Then she reset her jaw and said, We're not doing this here. And she walked off. Not a word more. Not an apology. Not even a backward glance. But I stayed there for a long time, in that dim hallway that smelled like old flowers, wondering when exactly my wife had stopped seeing me as hers and started seeing me as the problem. After she left me standing in that hallway, I didn't go back into the ballroom right away. I stood there, staring at a fire extinguisher like it had the answers to everything. Dahlia's words echoed in my head. You always twist things. Like I was the villain for noticing she'd rather dance with her boss than with her husband. Like wanting to feel seen made me needy. I was so tired of being told I was too sensitive every time I pointed out that something didn't feel right. Eventually, I drifted back into the room. Petra was gone. Ronan was laughing near the bar, surrounded by half the design team. Dahlia stood beside him again, sipping champagne like nothing had happened. And me? I hovered near the cheese cubes, pretending I was still part of the evening. I didn't even try to join her. What was the point? Later, when the event wound down and the crowd thinned out, she finally approached me like nothing had happened at all. Ready to go? She asked, breezily, as if we hadn't just had a Cold War in the coat hallway. In the car, she talked about work, something about a client in Prague and a new campaign rollout, but I barely heard her. I was still stuck on what she'd said. Twisting things. That's always her fallback. Like I fabricate pain for sport. When we got home, she went straight to the bathroom, already unzipping her dress before she shut the door. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the dim glow from the vanity light. My chest felt like it had been hollowed out with a spoon. I heard her phone buzz on the dresser. Now, I'm not proud of what I did next, but I'm also not going to pretend I didn't do it. I picked it up, just to see, just to check, just to confirm whether or not I was losing my mind. There was a new message. From Ronan. You looked amazing tonight. Let me know when you're free for that one-on-one pitch review. I stared at the screen, my hands going clammy. I scrolled up. The thread wasn't long, but it wasn't professional either. There were late-night texts, little inside jokes, a selfie she'd sent a week ago, not scandalous, but not the kind of thing you send your married boss if there are still boundaries. He'd replied with a fire emoji. A goddamn fire emoji. I put the phone down like it burned me. When she came out in her robe, I was still sitting there, trying to figure out if I should confront her or pretend I never saw it. She raised an eyebrow. You look like you saw a ghost. I swallowed. I think we should talk. She froze. Just for a second. But it was enough. What about Ronan? She blinked once, slowly. What about him? I saw the messages. Her jaw tightened. You went through my phone? No. I mean, yes. But only because I stopped myself. The whole thing sounded ridiculous. I didn't have a single piece of proof that crossed any hard lines. But I had 100 pieces of proof that crossed emotional ones. She sat on the bed. Wesley, he's my boss. We text. You're blowing this up in your head again. I felt like screaming. But instead, I whispered. Then why do I feel like I don't exist when you're around him? She looked away. That was the first honest moment all night. She didn't deny it. She didn't say I was wrong. She just didn't say anything. And in that silence, I knew. Something had shifted. Something she wasn't ready to admit. Something that wouldn't stay hidden much longer. The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened. She made coffee. She hummed while scrolling through emails. She even asked me if I wanted sourdough or rye, like she hadn't frozen the air in our bedroom just hours earlier. I played along, too stunned to even know what the right reaction was anymore. I was still replaying the look on her face when I said I saw the messages. Not panic, not even guilt, just annoyance. Like I had interrupted her evening with something deeply inconvenient. I chose rye, because I always do. I was supposed to go into work that morning, but I couldn't focus on code or bugs or ticket queues when my head felt like it was spinning sideways. I called in sick and spent half the day just pacing around the apartment, opening apps and closing them without reading anything. I started drafting a message to my friend Josh 3 times before deleting it. I even considered messaging Petra, just to talk, just to vent, just to feel like someone was listening, but that felt messy. Too soon. Too loaded. Around noon, Dahlia called me from the office. Her voice was casual. Hey, everything okay? You didn't say goodbye this morning. I stared at the phone, then slowly answered. Yeah, just felt off. Took a sick day? She paused, just a beat too long. Okay, well, rest up. I've got back-to-backs all day, so I might be late. And that was it. I sat down at her desk. Her laptop was still logged in. Now, I know how this sounds. I know it already crossed a line. But when you feel like you're losing your grip on what's real, you'll do anything to confirm you're not imagining it. I didn't go snooping. I opened her calendar. That's all. And there it was. A 5:30 p.m. creative strategy session booked with Ronan Huxley. Location, off-site. No client name. No team members. Just the two of them. I closed the laptop so fast it nearly cracked. I paced again. This time faster. I kept looking at the clock. I knew where that off-site probably meant. There's a rooftop bar 2 blocks from her office she's always raved about. Quiet, stylish, lots of candlelight. She's taken me there once. I shouldn't have gone. I know that. But by 5:15, I was already halfway downtown. Not to make a scene. Not to scream or beg or throw water in anyone's face. Just to see. Just to know. I stood across the street with my hood up. I watched the door. And at 5:43, she walked in. Not with her laptop. Not with any notes or a pitch deck. Just her phone, a tiny purse, and a smile I hadn't seen directed at me in months. Ronan arrived 5 minutes later. He didn't look around to check who saw him. He just stepped inside like he owned the evening. And me? I stood there on the sidewalk, heart beating like a war drum in my ears, watching the shadows of their silhouettes flicker behind the frosted windows. She lied. And maybe it was just one lie. Maybe it was about a work meeting that wasn't technically romantic, but it broke something inside me. Not because of what it proved, but because of what it suggested. The ease. The confidence. The way she had practiced this. She had done it before. Not necessarily the affair. Not necessarily with Ronan. But the erasure. The deception. The way she compartmentalized and polished and dismissed anything that didn't fit her version of professional. I went home before they came out. Because I didn't want to see her face when she got into his car. The thing about betrayal is that it doesn't always hit like a hammer. Sometimes it drips. Quietly. Slowly. Like a leak behind your walls that rots everything before you even smell it. That night, she came home at 8:41 p.m. No apology. No excuse. Just a kiss on the cheek like she'd come back from the gym. She changed into sweats, tossed her earrings on the nightstand, and started scrolling through interior design videos like nothing had shifted. I said nothing. Because silence, I've learned, is the best liar's mirror. They reflect themselves in it. The next morning, I packed my laptop and told her I'd be working from a cafe near my office. She didn't ask which one. She never does. That gave me an idea. I didn't go to any cafe. I went to her office. I knew Petra worked the front desk on Thursdays. And when she saw me walk in, she looked up with one of those tight, curious smiles. The kind people give you when they know things, but haven't said them. I'm here to drop off something for Dahlia, I said. Can I head up? She nodded slowly. She's in a meeting with Ronan. Big one. Took over the glass conference room. Want me to let her know you're here? No. I said quickly, maybe too quickly. It's a surprise. She smirked. Copy that. I didn't go to the conference room. I didn't need to. I knew the layout. I knew the timing. And more importantly, I knew exactly what Dahlia valued more than anything, reputation. So instead of confronting her in person, I pulled out my phone, opened the backup of her messages I had emailed to myself the night I saw Ronan's texts, and attached them to an anonymous burner email. I didn't send it to her. I sent it to HR. Not with accusations. Not even with context. Just a message that read, you might want to be aware of the kind of pitch meetings your regional director is having. Attached are a few casual interactions between him and a subordinate, logged during office hours. Then I walked out. I know what you're thinking. Why go that far? Why drag her through workplace chaos? Because I had spent 9 years making sure she was supported, comfortable, untouchable. I built our life around protecting her from stress, from embarrassment, from everything. And she repaid me with smirks and secrets and candlelit strategy sessions. So I stopped protecting her. That afternoon, she texted me once. Hey, meeting ran long. Can we do takeout tonight? I replied, sure, whatever you're in the mood for. She never suspected a thing. Not that day, not the next. But Petra messaged me the following week. Just 2 words. It's starting. I didn't ask what she meant. I already knew. It started with a shift in her voice. The following Monday, she came home late again, but not glowing and smug, late like before. This was different. She tossed her bag onto the couch, didn't bother taking off her heels, and poured herself a glass of wine before even saying hello. I watched her from the kitchen. She didn't make eye contact. That was the first clue. How was your day? I asked, as casually as I could, like I hadn't just spent mine refreshing the company's job listing page and checking her LinkedIn profile every 10 minutes. She took a sip and shrugged. Weird. Just weird energy at work. I kept my face still. Weird how? She looked at me, really looked for the first time in days, like she was checking if I knew something. Then she shook her head. People are whispering. HR pulled Ronan into a meeting this morning and didn't say why. Then everyone started acting all formal, tight. I played dumb. Huh, that's strange. She narrowed her eyes. You haven't heard anything, have you? And right there, I saw it. The sliver of doubt. She was second-guessing, wondering. Because maybe, just maybe, she suspected she'd been careless. Maybe she remembered that little hesitation in my voice the night I mentioned her texts. Maybe she noticed that I hadn't picked a fight. I hadn't begged. I hadn't even raised my voice. And that terrified her more than anything. See, Dahlia thrives on control. She controls how people see her, how they remember her. She tailors every word, every look, every silence. So when that control starts to slip, she spirals. Quietly, of course. Elegantly. But she spirals. The next morning, she spent nearly 20 extra minutes getting ready. Not in a confident power outfit way, but like someone going into a job interview they didn't ask for. When she left, her perfume lingered longer than usual. That always happens when she's nervous. She sprays too much. Petra messaged me again. They're auditing all internal comms. It's not just Ronan anymore. I stared at the message and had to remind myself to breathe. I never wanted to burn her life down. That wasn't the plan. But I needed her to feel the instability she had buried me under for months. I needed her to understand that erasing me wasn't going to be clean. There would be fingerprints. There would be smoke. That night, she was quiet. Too quiet. She barely touched her food. Didn't turn on the TV. Just scrolled through her phone like she was reading tea leaves, trying to figure out if a storm was heading her way or already overhead. Eventually, she broke. Wes, she said, and her voice was small. If something ever came up at work, something stupid, out of context, you'd tell me if you knew anything, right? I set down my fork, took a long breath, met her eyes. Of course, I said, and I wasn't even lying, because I'd already told her, in the only way she'd understand. I didn't expect her to cry. Dahlia doesn't cry, not in the way most people do. She recalibrates. She adjusts. She spins. So when she came home the next day and sat beside me on the couch without saying a word, I knew something serious had shifted. She didn't kick off her heels, didn't check her phone, just stared at the dark TV screen like it might offer answers if she waited long enough. Then she whispered it. They suspended him. My stomach didn't even flinch. I already knew. Petra had sent me a one-line update earlier that afternoon. Ronan's badge got shut off at 2:13 p.m. Still, I played my part. I tilted my head and asked, who? She looked at me slowly, as if gauging how dumb I was allowed to be. Ronan. I nodded. Let it sit there. Let her carry the weight of silence this time. They said it's pending an investigation, she continued. No one's saying anything, but I think they pulled messages. Like actual internal chat logs. She looked genuinely shaken, but it wasn't shame on her face. It was fear, and not fear of consequences, fear of exposure, of vulnerability, of the kind of scrutiny she'd built her entire identity to avoid. Then came the part one didn't see coming. She reached over and took my hand. I hadn't felt her initiate contact like that in months. Not tenderly, not with intent. Her fingers were cold, tense. Her grip wasn't loving, it was strategic. I know we've been distant, she said carefully, but I want to fix things between us. I wanted to laugh, not because I was happy, but because it was so transparent, so rehearsed. The timing was almost insulting. Why now? I asked. Her voice cracked just a little. Because I think I've been unfair. I think I've let work bleed into everything. And I miss you. It would have worked on me once. She started talking fast, like she was trying to outrun the silence. What if we took some time away? Just the two of us. Somewhere quiet. Reset. We could rent a cabin or go somewhere upstate. No phones. No distractions. Just us. A week ago, I would have begged for that. Now I could see the real motive. She wanted insulation. Distance from the office. A pause button. Not to fix our marriage, but to regroup, control the narrative, buy herself time in case the walls kept closing in. I pulled my hand away slowly. You think we can patch things over in the woods like none of this happened? Her eyes flashed, the briefest glimpse of frustration. Then she softened again. No, I don't want to lose you in the middle of this. And that was the giveaway. In the middle of this. She didn't say because I love you. She didn't say because I'm scared of what I've done. She didn't say because I want to make this right. Just that I was inconvenient to lose right now. I stood up. I need some air, I said. She didn't follow me. She just sat there, hand clenched on the couch cushion, watching me walk out the door like a chess piece she didn't expect to move. And for the first time since this all started, I realized something strange. She was starting to look like the one who got blindsided. It didn't end with a blowout. No screaming. No cheating confession. No glass-shattering drama. It ended over pancakes. 3 weeks after Ronan's suspension, Dahlia sat across from me at our favorite Sunday brunch spot, the one we hadn't been to in over a year. She looked tired. Her hair was pulled back like she hadn't slept well, and she barely touched her food. I think she'd hoped the invitation would be some kind of fresh start, a soft reset, like hitting undo on everything. But that's not how damage works. It doesn't reverse. It either changes you, or it defines you. I got the formal notice last night, she said, stirring coffee that had long since gone cold. HR ruled it was inappropriate but inconclusive. No termination. Just move departments. And I've been asked to attend a leadership boundaries seminar. I nodded. Said nothing. And you? She asked. You've been quiet. Distant. I folded my napkin and looked her straight in the eye. Because I needed to figure out who I was when I wasn't orbiting you. She flinched, just slightly, but I didn't stop. For years, I adjusted. I minimized. I twisted myself small to make you comfortable. And I thought that made me a good partner. But it made me invisible. And when I finally said I needed more, you called it drama. She opened her mouth to speak, but I held up a hand. You don't need to apologize. I'm not angry. I'm just done pretending we're on the same page. She blinked, eyes welling just enough to be noticeable, but not messy. So what now? She asked, voice barely above a whisper. I smiled. Not out of cruelty. Out of clarity. Now, I moved forward. And I meant it. The next week, I signed the lease on a small studio in a quiet neighborhood near the river. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. Petra and I crossed paths once more. She congratulated me on the move and gave me a potted cactus with a sticky note that read, low maintenance. Unlike some people. We laughed. Nothing romantic. Just respect. Dahlia and I didn't go to war. We settled things quietly. No lawyers. No theatrics. She kept her career. I kept my peace. And in that quiet, something beautiful started to grow. A version of myself I hadn't seen in years. Someone who didn't flinch at shadows. Who didn't need to be loud to feel heard. Who stopped waiting for permission to matter. For once, I wasn't the background noise in someone else's story. I was the headline in mine.